strength can rule. Only fools think otherwise. They oppose me. They think their coalition can save them. They are but dogs barking at a tiger. They cannot match my ambition. They cannot overcome my strength. But they will bow before my rule.
Hello my friends, welcome back to Milk and Cookies Total War, and there you have it. Oh Lord, he coming. The big donger making landfall like a beached whale. Dong Zhuo will indeed be your 12th and final playable warlord in Total War 3 Kingdoms. For a while now, we've kind of been wondering, will he be in at launch? Is he getting added later as free LC or DLC? Or is he just kind of going to be this behind the scenes tyrant, this force of nature and boss character that won't ever be playable without mods? And it felt kind of weird to see him and his foster son Lu Bu, two of the most iconic characters of the time period, advertised so heavily in the trailers and marketing for the game, kind of get stuck in limbo. But no longer. They are here to stay. They will be playable as an unlockable faction when you defeat the Dong's army in battle, or when you reach the rank of Emperor in campaign with any other faction. And this is awesome, because this is a callback to historical Total Wars from more than a decade ago. It is the first time we've had unlockable factions for a campaign since Medieval 2, I believe, which is pretty crazy. We had Sartorial and Boris and the Red Duke for completing the Warhammer 1 Grand Campaign, Eye for an Eye and Realm of the Wood Elves, but none of them have become playable factions in campaign yet. So this is big news, huge news. If you remember, all the way back to Medieval 2, you only had England, France, the Holy Roman Empire, Spain, and Venice on launch. And you either had to mess around with the script files behind the scenes, or complete a full campaign to unlock all of the other factions. So yeah, for the first time in almost 15 years, unlockable endgame content that translates directly to campaign will be at your fingertips. And it's going to be a pretty crazy one too. The Donger represents a playstyle similar in some ways to what we saw out of the Western Roman Empire in Total War Attila, which is one of the craziest campaigns we've ever seen in a Total War game. I don't think it's going to be quite so dramatic here, or quite so difficult, but his starting location and opening moves will probably have a lot of similarities. Basically, you're in a situation where everyone hates you, and for good reason. One of the biggest characteristics of his reign after taking advantage of the chaos in the capital to declare himself Grand Master was a series of brutal purges of the Yuan family and the population at large. Anyone he thought might have the power to conspire against him or join the coalition later was executed, and a lot of that was straight Ramsay Bolton Game of Thrones style torture. He would throw these lavish parties and feasts and entertain himself by watching his captured enemies would have their tongues cut so they couldn't make any noise. Then eyeballs would get scooped out, limbs would get chopped off, and while remaining conscious, they would be dipped into boiling oil, taken out and rolled into a literal ball of meat for everyone at the party to look at as they ate. It's almost like this caricature of evil, like you might expect something to see in like a comic book or a movie, but he was a real life villain, a gigantic dickhead, and so Dong is honestly a pretty fitting name for him. He caused widespread inflation by adding a bunch of new currency to the pool, watched as tens of thousands of people starved, and of course, when the coalition finally drew near, literally burned down the capital and the homes of millions and ran like hell. So his campaign is going to play a lot like the Western Roman Empire because you already have an established empire. You start with the Han Empire as your vassal and the Emperor under your control, your puppet state. And this gives you a ton of money and a ton of power and a ton of prestige and lots of land immediately at your fingertips. The problem, of course, is that everyone hates you. The entire country is in turmoil. The borders of your realm will quickly begin crumbling from internal and external pressure, and you have a gigantic target on your back because you start at a higher rank than anyone else. So big empire, quickly destabilizing, lots of border wars, public order issues, widespread famine is gonna be not very pleasant for him early on. I think Yuan Shu and a few other factions in the true center of the map might end up having the hardest time. I'm really not sure Dong Zhuo will have the most difficult campaign start out of everyone, simply because most of your enemies will be concentrated in the east, with the exception of Ma Tang, but it's definitely not gonna be easy. And as you might expect, he's got a unique mechanic called Intimidation. Kind of similar to High Elf's influence from Total War Warhammer, it's all about authority and cruelty, using this terrifying persona he's built up to bully people and keep them in line. High intimidation means his generals are less likely to rebel and reduces corruption across his realm, and low intimidation is obviously the converse of that, means less satisfaction and higher corruption. And as we've seen before in previous Total War games, huge empires can lose a ton of money when corruption is running rampant, so that's something you're definitely going to want to control. So you'll want to build that resource up by annexing Han territory, winning battles, killing your enemies, and keeping the conquest rolling in. And without it, intimidation will decay over time. Probably the coolest feature of this whole thing is yet another wrinkle on diplomacy that should be a ton of fun to toy around with, is that you can spend intimidation points to force factions into a particular deal, and maybe even force them to give you territory or pay tribute. If it ends up all working as advertised, which of course is never a given, it could really make you feel like an actual tyrant that can truly bully people without outright conquering them through force. Now, the only reason you can actually wield power is because your military starts out adoring you, right? If you didn't have good generals, and if you didn't have a good military, you wouldn't be able to flex your muscles. And so, what you do have is the strongest melee fighter in the setting on your side. Do not pursue. It's Mr. Lu Bu, and he's coming for you. I imagine it's gonna be kind of hard to keep him loyal because your starting dilemma revolves around your relationship. But the cool thing is, depending on what you choose, he could actually end up killing the tyrant and proclaiming himself emperor and becoming your faction leader. And I honestly think that's a road that a lot of people will want to go down because Lu Bu is arguably the most iconic character in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms period. So that whole relationship will be decided by a chain of events. With Records mode, it'll focus on the historical dynamics of their relationship, their personal differences, the fact that the big donger would often throw his halberd at Lu Bu, and was just kind of a drunk asshat in general. And then Romance mode is where the fictional Diao Chan comes into play, the world-renowned courtesan who made the whole Dong Empire crumble by turning Lu Bu against his father. Frankly, I think these dilemmas are a little too obvious right now in terms of what the outcomes and effects will be on paper, so I'm hoping Creative Assembly throws in some wrinkles and gives us an actual reason to, not give up Diao Chan, for example. I want there to be actual benefits for that, because if it's as simple as, hey, Lu Bu, keep your girlfriend, now I want to keep you as a loyal general, that's not really a dilemma so much as an inevitability. Like, who's not going to want to keep Lu Bu loyal to their cause? So you've got to have some good bonuses for the alternative, which is pissing Lu Bu off and taking her for yourself. Because if you're just getting to bang the hottest chick in the land off screen, that doesn't really benefit your campaign in any way, so there need to be meaningful benefits and bonuses for going that direction. So you'll begin your campaign in Chang'an, I believe, after Luoyang has been abandoned, basically burned to the ground by Dong Zhuo, with many of the major powers in the game already at war with you or on the edge of declaring for the coalition. But you've got some of the strongest generals, the best economic position, the new capital under your control, and a pretty big choice to make early on. Expand quickly, gobble up a bunch of the Han territory, annex it, and become a huge power at the expense of ensuring that everyone else dows you early on and puts a ton of pressure on your borders. Or kind of go the non-historical route, play it cool, don't be a massive dickhead, and let the others kind of kill each other off while you build up your power base in a less assertive manner. Either way, I think it's going to be a really unique and interesting campaign. And I think by far one of the most fun ways to play it will be full roleplay. Be a full douche, take Diao-chan for yourself, murder everyone in sight, torture, extort, conquer, flex that tub of lard to its fullest potential, expand your donger as far and wide as possible, and lead China into a glorious new age of the Dong Empire. With Lu Bu in tow and some of the best generals of Three Kingdoms China under your control, it will definitely be within your power. So, let me know what you guys think now that we know that Big Daddy Donger is the 12th and final playable warlord on launch day. What do you think of this new potential trend of adding unlockable factions to Total War games, which is something we have not seen in a Total War game for almost a decade and a half? And let me know in the comment section below, and I'll see you all in the next video. Indie Pride, signing out for now. Have a good one, guys.